classic serial starring MacDonald Carey.
Come in. Hello, Mickey. What's going on?
Thanks for making the time, Mr. Ferguson.
Well, it seemed important when you on the phone just now.
Well, it is important. My father was served the complaint papers.
I'm sorry I had to do that, Mickey, but your alternative. The Sawyers feel that your father has failed them. And we gave you every chance to come up with some explanation of why he was delayed that night.
I realize that. And believe me, my father feels very badly about the Sawyers. He would do anything in the world to make it up to them.
Well, I don't quite understand, Mickey. Are you here on behalf of the complaint? I mean, formally?
Yes and no. Actually, my father has authorized me to make a settlement.
Settlement?
That's right. Dad knows that Carl was the breadwinner of the family.
Yes, that's why we're suing for $50,000 damages.
Well, you know my father doesn't have that kind of money.
I know, but he is insured, isn't he? Mickey, why doesn't he turn this over to his insurance company and let them handle it?
Now, you know as well as I do, an insurance company would never settle simply on the strength of a complaint. Well, they'd have to make investigations, take depositions, and all that would mean a lot of publicity. That's exactly what Dad's trying to avoid.
I see.
Well, you know my father. You know what kind of a he is. He's very well respected in this community. He's a very fine doctor. He has never had any kind of trouble like this before.
I do know that, Mickey, and I certainly haven't enjoyed my position in this. But unless your father comes up with something better than that unavoidably detained excuse, why, any attorney worth the salt would have to prosecute.
Would an offer of settlement be acceptable to your clients?
Well, that depends. What would be involved?
Well, any reasonable amount. You know my father's not a rich man.
Is he in a financial position to give up any large amounts just to avoid publicity?
Look, he wants to avoid a court trial and a fight. He doesn't want that. The whole idea of it is distasteful to him. That kind of notoriety is just what he's trying to avoid.
I can certainly understand that.
Look, my father is no ordinary defendant. I don't have to tell you what this would do to him professionally. This kind of a case, the charges you're making.
Well, now, both of you must have felt that these charges warranted your coming over here to make me a settlement offer, Mickey, or you wouldn't be here.
We are simply trying to avoid publicity. Now, even if Dad were to win the case, he still would be hurt by it. Now, you must know that.
Well, all I know is what we've been told. And so far, that's nothing. But I will go along with you on this, Mickey, because I do like and respect your dad. I will take the settlement matter to the Sawyers.
Thank you.
But now, you know, Mickey, this is not altogether my responsibility. It's up to my clients, too.
Well, I'm sure you're going to do your very best.
And Mickey, before you go, there's something you should know. Your mother went to see Jean Sawyer and asked her to drop this case.
She what?
That's right. That's right. And now you come here with an offer to me. Anybody involved would certainly think that your father was guilty.
Well, and
It's all right, Mickey. I said that I would make this settlement offer, and I will. But you tell your mother to stay out of this. Understand?
Of course. Where's Dad?
In his study. Do you want him?
Oh, not right now. I think I'd rather talk to you.
Good.
What are you doing?
Well, I thought we'd want to use this over the holidays, and it's almost black.
You're doing a pretty good job. When you finish that, you can come over to my apartment and polish all my stuff.
Why don't you get one of your pretty young girlfriends to polish it for you?
Afraid my pretty young girlfriends have other things to do whenever they come over to my apartment.
Oh, I'll bet they have.
Mom, I'm really very angry with you.
Why, because I won't polish your silver?
No. I'm serious now.
So you are. What have I done?
I'll tell you what you've done. You've almost ruined Dad's case with the Sawyers.
Me?
You went to see Gene Sawyer, didn't you?
How did you know?
Alan Ferguson told me. He's pretty burned up about this, and so am I. Why did you do it, Mom?
Well, I thought if I could just make them understand that it wasn't your father's fault.
But to talk to Gene Sawyer, of all people, she's the one who's been pressing this case against Dad.
I really wanted to talk to her mother, but Mrs. Sawyer was resting.
Mom, you pleaded with Gene Sawyer to drop the case. Now, don't you see what a bad light that puts us in?
I thought that if she could understand that your dad didn't deliberately neglect Carl Sawyer, that he wouldn't do such a thing. He couldn't do such a thing.
All right, Mom, now what did you tell her?
Well, just that your father never got that second phone message. I forgot and left the phone off the hook.
You didn't tell her why you forgot the phone, did you?
Well, no. I couldn't. It was because of Marie.
Then what did you accomplish by going over to the Sawyers?
Mickey, I just wanted to appeal to their sense of compassion. Why should they persecute your father for something that isn't his fault?
In their eyes, it is his fault.
I know that, Mickey. I saw it when I talked to Gene Sawyer.
The only thing in her mind is that her father is dead because Dad didn't get there in time. And no amount of talking to her is going to change that. Don't you realize that?
I do now.
We're trying to convince the Sawyers to accept an out-of-court settlement. I just came from Ferguson's office.
Do you think they will accept it?
I don't know, Mom. Ferguson's going to talk to them. But he won't do anything if you get into this again.
I won't. I saw how useless it was when I heard how that girl talked about your father. I believe she really hates him.
You know what Dad would do if he found out you went over to the Sawyers? He'd blow his stack.
I know. I really did what I thought was right.
Oh, Mom. I know you did, but... Gosh. From now on, just... leave this up to your attorney, will you?
Okay.
I realize that. Well, what was Ferguson's reaction when you told him that we were willing to make a settlement offer?
He was surprised, naturally.
Why? Isn't it understandable I'd want to avoid publicity?
Well, of course, but in Ferguson's eyes, it could mean an admission of guilt.
You don't mean to say that he still thinks I'm guilty of neglecting Carl Sawyer?
Oh, Dad, I don't think he still believes that, but it does stick in his craw, though, that your only excuse is that tired, old, unavoidably detained line.
Well, that's the only line I have, Mickey.
Unless we tell him the truth about Marie.
Which we won't. Hello? Now, this is Dr. Horton. Would you put me through the lab, please? Those papers all have to do with me?
No, Dad. Believe it or not, I do have some other clients.
How about the papers, the probation papers on Julie?
Well, they're pretty good. She seems to be towing the line.
Well, she's been doing very well around the house. Yes. Hello, Dr. Stone. This is Dr. Horton. Could you have those slides for me this afternoon about 4 o'clock? Good. I'll be by and pick them up. Goodbye.
You know, Dad, we're really pretty lucky that the Sawyers retained Ferguson on this. Any other lawyer, I think, would be out for blood.
And you think Ferguson isn't?
Not at all. He's doing his best for us.
But he did file that complaint, didn't he?
Well, Dad, the Sawyers pressured him into taking some kind of action. He really doesn't have his heart in this case, believe me.
Oh, that's good. Then he's willing to accept the settlement.
Well, you'll have to discuss it, talk it over with the Sawyers first.
But he does understand my point of view, doesn't he, about wanting to avoid publicity?
Oh, sure, he realizes how damaging this could be to any doctor, to a man of your reputation. Well, it's like I said, Dad, he doesn't want to hurt you if he can possibly help it.
Did you mention money to him?
Yeah, I told him any reasonable amount. He knows you don't have any big sum.
Oh, we'll raise the money somehow.
I hope the Sawyers will agree to any kind of a settlement, any amount.
What makes you think they won't?
Can't be sure, Dad, but the way Ferguson talks, the only thing on Jean Sawyer's mind is revenge.
Revenge? That won't bring her father back to life.
No, but if she can manage to damage your reputation and ruin you as a doctor, that'll just about satisfy her completely.
Nobody could be that vindictive.
This girl could, believe me.
Well, Ferguson won't let that happen. He'll cool her down, persuade her to settle the case out of court, and this whole thing will be forgotten.
I just hope he does have that much influence over
It's better for her to forget it. Reliving this tragedy about her father must be as painful for her as it is for us.
Some people get a comfort out of revenge. Maybe it's some kind of consolation to her to know that she can make you suffer.
Oh, now, come on, Mickey. That sounds like something out of Macbeth.
Shakespeare was a pretty good judge of human nature, Dad.
Shakespeare has nothing to do with this. I wouldn't be surprised if this whole case was settled out of court.
What does Shakespeare have to do with this case?
You know something? Quite apart from all this legal hassle, the lawsuit and everything, the thing that bothers me the most is the memory of that night at the Sawyers.
Don't think about it, Tom.
I can't not think about it. Walking to that house and learning that Carl had died, it was a shock. I don't know, just a few days before, he seemed to be progressing so nicely. I was sure that he was on the road to recovery. I was absolutely certain he was going to be all right.
But doctors have to face that sort of thing all the time, don't they, Dad?
Yes, that doesn't make it any easier, Mickey. We never get used to the idea of losing a patient. None of us. Not me. Not any other doctor.
But when it's not your fault, dear.
Even so, we always get a feeling of emptiness, a sense of deep loss. Frustration.
Well, soon it'll all be just a bad dream, Dad.
A recurrent dream, Mickey.
No, Dad. Once it's over, it'll really be over.
Oh, I wish it were over now, Mickey. No, today.
It'll be over soon. Ferguson is going to do everything in his power to persuade the Sawyers to accept a settlement.
Yes? Oh, send her in. Hello, Jean. Sit down.
Hello, Mr. Ferguson.
Were you able to get away from work all right?
Oh, yes, I usually get out about this time. You sounded on the phone as if you had something important to tell me.
I do.
Something about the case?
Mickey Horton came to see me.
In answer to the complaint against his father?
Dr. Horton wants to settle a matter out of court.
I'll bet he does.
So he authorized his son to come to me with the offer. Actually, he should have made it in writing because we're friends.
Mr. Ferguson, you always seem to want to remind me of that. That you and the Hortons are good friends.
Well, I'm your friend too, Jean, and your mother's. And I was a very good friend of your dad's, and don't you forget it.
I don't want to forget it. But sometimes it seems as if you're on their side.
I'm your attorney, Jean. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to hound Dr. Horton just for the sake of making his life miserable.
They have a nerve coming here and trying to settle out of court.
They had every right to do that.
You mean it wasn't unethical of Mickey Horton to come here and try to make a deal with you?
It wasn't a deal, and his father had his full authorization for him to come to me and make the setup.
Well, what did you tell him?
Well, I told him that I have to discuss this with you and your mother.
Well, my mother is in no condition to discuss this with you now.
Well, perhaps I'll talk to her tomorrow.
Mr. Ferguson, do you know what tomorrow is?
No.
It's my father's birthday. He would have been 48 years old. That's pretty young for a man to die, isn't it?
Yes, it is, Jean.
My mother and I bought his birthday present a month ago. A new set of golf clubs. They're hidden away in the hall closet. I don't suppose we need to hide them anymore, do we? Pop will never get a chance to use them now.
Sorry I don't have any milk, Jean, but I always take my tea straight. You know, my secretary threatens to resign every week. She says that she wasn't hired to be just a tea maker. But that's the secretary's lot these days, isn't it?
I suppose so.
Well, that's what happens to career girls. They end up being office wives.
Mr. Ferguson, I'm going to have to get home soon.
Jean, don't rush.
I want to fix supper tonight. Mother's not feeling very well today.
I don't mean you're rushing to get home. Just don't rush into any hasty decisions about the settlement offer from the Hortons.
All Dr. Horton is trying to do is buy us. He's using his money to protect his precious reputation.
Well, you can't blame him for that. Besides, if this goes to trial...
If. Look, Mr. Ferguson, we went into this thing to get some answers as to why my father died. You've asked questions. Have you gotten any answers?
No, that's why I filed the suit.
Yes. We started this to find out why Dr. Horton didn't come to treat my father. What have we got? An offer of money to try and make us forget, is that it? Well, we still have no explanation.
Well, he'd offer a reasonable amount.
Can't you see what he's trying to do? He's trying to hide. That's why there's talk of settlement. Either that, or he has no explanation.
I'll admit that the circumstances are strange, Jean, but lawsuits are settled eventually.
This is not just any lawsuit.
Well, I still think that you should consider this offer. Very frankly, there are plenty of unknowns in a jury trial. You just have no assurances how it's going to turn out.
Look, Mr. Ferguson, this offer should convince you that Dr. Horton is trying to hide something. First, his wife comes to me, and she wants me to drop the suit. And now he makes us an offer of a settlement. Doesn't that prove he's guilty?
There are other reasons than guilt for offering to settle out of court, Jean. He's trying to buy peace, an avoidance of publicity.
Well, I want publicity. The world should know about a thing like this, so that doctors like Horton are prevented from practicing.
Actually, the law prefers people to settle their differences out of court.
I don't care what the law prefers. We went into this to get an explanation. We don't have one. As far as I'm concerned, Dr. Horton and his son can offer us a full settlement. And that won't change my mind. I want everyone to know what kind of doctor he is.
Jean, anything can happen in a jury trial. It can be a heartbreaking experience.
I'm not afraid of losing.
I know you're not. And I know that you have a moral right of knowing where Dr. Horton was that night and why he was late. But, Jean, suppose there is no answer. What do you gain by a trial?
We make sure that he doesn't leave anyone else to die the way he left my father.
Jean, wait. I want you to talk to your mother about this.
There's no reason to talk. We turned the settlement down flat.
Well, that's an answer based on just personal feeling against Dr. Horton.
Mr. Ferguson, that's my answer. No deal. No settlement. And you can talk to my mother as long as you want, or me, or anyone else. That won't change my answer. And you can tell Dr. Horton that for me. No settlement.
Be sure to join us for the next episode of Days of Our Lives.